Now available on Blu-ray in another 2-disc collector's edition is the 1986 horror comedy Bloodhook from Troma Entertainment. So this is a film I had never heard of. I think I'd seen the cover. I think I might have seen the videotape cover, and I knew that it was a thing, but I'd never watched it until I was given a review copy. So disc 1 is a Lloyd Kaufman intro from the COVID bunker, as he says in all these Blu-ray intros that he shot around the time that everything was in lockdown. And he talks about the movie, that this is the director's cut of a feature film from Jim Mallon. Now, if that name sounds familiar, he was one of the people behind the original Mystery Science Theater 3000, so that gives you maybe a sense of how serious this film is going to be. This was shot somewhere in the Midwest during it's set during a muskie fish, being not the former, person who was running for office decades ago, a muskie catching competition. So everything is about muskie. Everybody's muskie this and muskie that. And basically the film opens with a little boy on a dock with his grandfather, and out of nowhere, some hook comes out and hooks him in the neck and yanks him in the water, and he's dead. So a decade later or so, this guy comes back as a 20-something with his friends, and they're staying in that cabin, and they're going to whoop it up and have a great time during the muskie catching festival, and the killer returns. And one by one, townsfolk are getting whacked in the neck with a giant fishing lure and yanked to oblivion into the lake. And who is doing this, and can they be stopped? So it's a spoof of horror movies. It's silly. It's very regional centric with the way people act and the way they're obsessed with this fishing thing. I'm sure it played probably the best in that region when it was screened there back in '86. The transfer looks gorgeous on this. Super sharp. You can see the grain, which is not a bad thing. Super colorful. I can't imagine this film ever looked better. Although it did have a Vinegar Syndrome release, apparently, not too long ago. So I don't know if it's the same transfer as that or not, but I believe the extras are fresh to this edition. The film itself, I didn't really like. I thought it was way too long. It was like 110 minutes. That's 10 minutes shy of 2 hours if you don't want to do the math for a silly comedy. Comedies rarely worked for me at that length. I didn't think it was funny. That the acting is really bad. It wasn't so bad it was good. To me, it was just bad. So I always say a bad comedy is the worst because there's nowhere to go with a bad comedy. You can't laugh at it. A bad anything else you can laugh at, but if it's the movie's trying to be funny and it's not, it just becomes painful and dreary. So did not like the film. One fun thing about the film, though, is that there was a piece of music that they play repeatedly throughout the film that to me sounded like a piece of music from Cruisin', and it gets played over and over and over and over again in this movie. And I don't know if it was intentionally trying to sound like that piece of music from Cruising, but it really kind of cracked me up. That might have been what I liked most about it, because it reminded me of Cruising, which is a movie that I do like. So the disc, I'm going to glance, as I say, I'm going to glance over here at my notes. The extras that are on disc 2. So disc 1 is the movie and the Lloyd Kaufman intro. Disc 2 is all the rest of this stuff. And I believe there is a Jim Mallon commentary on disc 1. Disc 2, you have a cinematographer/editor interview that runs a half hour. You've got a trailer, Radiation March, Troma promo. It's just a promo for Troma stuff that's on a lot of these. FX artist interview that's a half hour. An actress, Lisa Todd, who's in the film, an interview with her that runs 20 minutes. You've got a still gallery, a Troma short called Blood Stab that's 7 minutes. That's just like an original Troma short. You've got an interview with Jim Mallon that runs a half hour, and a Troma Now promo. So this is a loaded disc. So if you are somebody who likes Bloodhook, or if you watched the first disc and you're like, I demand an explanation for what I just watched, the second disc gives you almost a feature length or features duration of stuff about that film. I just thought, the coolest thing about Bloodhook, if you're a fan of Ray Dennis Steckler, this will connect. In The Incredibly Strange Creatures Who Stopped Living and Became Mixed Up Zombies, he has a shot of this Angel's Flight, I think it was called, or it might not be there anymore, but it's one of those strange angled. It's like a little hut. It's like a little train car that's on an angle, and it goes up a hillside. It's really kind of interesting. And I believe he said in the commentary for that movie that might be the only color footage of that specific one that might not be there anymore. There's something kind of like that in Bloodhook. There's this strange platform that rides down a rail on an angle, but the platform stays horizontal while the rail's at an angle. And it's like a lift that takes you to and from the water on the dock where this little boy's grandfather got killed. And they showed it a couple times in the movie, and I'd never seen anything like that before. So if nothing else, Bloodhook showed me that there's this weird little angled platform somewhere in the Midwest near a lake that's really cool. So available now on Blu-ray from Troma Entertainment, Bloodhook.